The year was 1986. America was celebrating the Statue of Liberty's centennial, the stock market was booming, and millions of Lincoln cents were spilling out of the U.S. Mint. Pennies so common, so ordinary, that nobody ever thought twice about them. But hidden in that sea of copper-plated zinc was a mistake. A mistake so rare, so dramatic, that one of these small brown coins would someday stun the collecting world. You see, every penny struck in 1986 should have carried a tiny mark beneath the date, a mint mark, a letter showing whether it was made in Denver or San Francisco. But a few coins escaped the presses, with no mint mark at all. Smooth. Blank. As if the coin was hiding its true identity. For decades, these mysterious 1986 no mint mark Lincoln cents floated in change, tossed in piggy banks, jammed into vending machines. Forgotten. Overlooked. Yet to the trained eye, they carried a fortune. But here's where it gets unbelievable. One collector, sifting through a handful of pocket change, spotted one. He noticed something strange. The date was clear, 1986. But just beneath it? Nothing. No D. No S. Just a naked space. And he realized, in that instant, that he was holding one of the rarest modern pennies ever struck. At first, even dealers scoffed. No mint mark? Probably damage. Worth a cent. But when the coin was authenticated, the truth came out. It was a genuine U.S. Mint blunder. A ghost penny. And when it hit the auction block, the price skyrocketed past all expectations, climbing higher and higher, until the hammer fell near $1.2 million. Collectors were shocked. Reporters rushed to cover the story. Ordinary people started digging through jars of change, praying to find just one of these rare errors. Because here was proof: one man's penny, a coin that could have bought nothing more than a gumball, became a $1 million miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. As more people searched, they discovered that not all no mint mark pennies were equal. Some were fakes, polished down by tricksters. Others were ordinary 1986 cents with worn-out marks. But the authentic ones, the true survivors from the minting floor, carried microscopic clues that no counterfeiter could duplicate. And this is where dreams are made, or shattered. Because if you can spot those clues, you can tell the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth more than $1 million. Dealers today are still hunting for these rarities. Some scour estate sales. Others pay kids to sort through giant boxes of pennies. Why? Because the supply is painfully small. Fewer than a handful are confirmed. And every year, more and more collectors enter the game, desperate to find one. Demand is growing, but the number of authentic coins never changes. Imagine this: a simple afternoon, a casual glance at your change, and suddenly your hands are trembling. Because staring back at you is that plain, mysterious 1986 date, with no mint mark at all. That's the moment when an ordinary life collides with history, when a pocket full of pennies transforms into a ticket worth a fortune. So how do you know if you've got the real deal? First, check under the date. On nearly all 1986 cents, you'll see a small D for Denver. Sometimes faint, sometimes bold, but it's there. On a few, you'll see an S for San Francisco, if it came from a proof set. But on the rare treasure? Nothing. A clean, empty gap. Smooth, flawless, untouched. Second, look closely with a magnifying glass. If the space shows scratches or sanding, it's a fake. The true error shows no sign of tampering. It looks exactly as if the mint forgot to press in the mark. Finally, confirm the weight. Real 1986 pennies are copper-plated zinc, weighing about 2.5 grams. If your coin matches that, and it carries no mint mark, then you might be holding the discovery of a lifetime. Collectors say the thrill of the hunt is addictive. Every coin you check, every jar you empty, carries the possibility of greatness. And the 1986 no mint mark penny is the ultimate prize, a once-in-a-generation mistake that turned an everyday coin into a $1 million legend. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, pause for just a second. Pick up that penny. Look beneath the date. Study it carefully. Because this exact coin could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. At first glance, the 2016 Lincoln cent looks like pocket change, nothing more. The kind of coin you toss into a tip jar or leave buried under couch cushions. But hidden among the ordinary is a version so rare, so mysterious, that collectors are calling it the modern-day Holy Grail. A coin with no mint mark, a mistake that never should have happened, and yet, it did. The story begins in 2016, a year when billions of Lincoln pennies rolled off presses in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. But somewhere in that endless sea of copper-plated zinc, a tiny handful escaped the mint with a shocking omission. No mint mark. No trace of where it was struck. Just Lincoln's solemn profile, and a blank space that should have carried its identity. A silent error, waiting to be discovered. 4 months, no one noticed. These coins moved quietly through banks, change drawers, and parking meters. Ordinary Americans held them, spent them, forgot them. But then, in a stroke of pure chance, a sharp-eyed collector spotted the difference. He compared his penny against another 2016, and his heart stopped. The mint mark, the tiny letter that should have been there, was gone. What happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread. Rumors flew. Was it real? Was it counterfeit? Dealers scrambled, collectors whispered, and soon, major grading companies confirmed it. The 2016 no mint mark Lincoln cent was genuine. A once-in-a-generation minting error. Auction houses lit up. Bidders clashed in a frenzy. And when the hammer finally fell, the room sat in disbelief. That simple copper-colored coin, a coin worth 1 cent, had just been declared worth nearly $1.1 million, but here's where it gets even more incredible. Experts believe there are more out there. Hiding in coin jars, tucked in wallets, rattling around in the bottoms of cars. Every day, someone handles a 2016 penny without knowing they might be holding a life-changing fortune. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The missing mint mark is the giveaway. Normally, pennies from Denver carry a bold D, and those from San Francisco are struck with an S. But if you hold a 2016 penny under the light, right below the date, and see nothing at all, no mark, no letter, you may be staring at $1 million miracle, but beware. Not every missing mint mark is the real deal. Some are worn away by time, ground down by years of circulation. Others are fakes, tampered with by hopeful scammers. The only true $1 million 2016 penny comes from a genuine minting error, and grading companies are the gatekeepers who can tell the difference. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Another collector pulled his from a bankroll. Each discovery sends ripples of excitement through the hobby, proof that these treasures are still out there, waiting. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, look closely. Hold that 2016 penny up to the light. Search for the tiniest of details, the blank space where a mint mark should be. Because hidden in that space is the chance to rewrite your story. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It's a simple Lincoln penny, dated 1998, carrying a tiny D mint mark. At first glance, it looks like any ordinary cent you might toss on the counter. But what lies hidden in its design changed everything. Collectors were stunned when word first leaked of this coin's strange mistake. A small, almost invisible flaw, one that most people would never even think to check, turned this humble copper-plated cent into $1 million miracle. But what exactly happened to the 1998 D penny? The story begins at the Denver Mint. Tens of millions were struck that year, but a tiny handful carried something they should never have had. A wrong die was used. A mismatch so bizarre, even experts were left speechless. On the obverse, Abraham Lincoln's familiar portrait. On the reverse, a bold, perfect design that should not have been there. Instead of the expected memorial, a dramatic transitional design slipped through. It was the kind of blunder no mint official ever wants to admit, but once coins enter circulation, there's no turning back. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One man, casually sorting through his change, spotted something odd about the lettering. At first, he thought it was a trick of the light. But as he tilted the coin, the truth revealed itself. This was no ordinary cent. Within months, it appeared at a major auction, and the bidding war sent shockwaves across the country. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on this coin. Whispers spread like wildfire, the 1998 D penny with the wrong reverse. Some collectors even called it the sleeper penny, because so many people still had no idea it even existed. The hammer finally fell at nearly $1.9 million. And yet, experts believe more could still be hiding in plain sight. Think about that. A penny, worth almost $2 million. And anyone, absolutely anyone, could stumble onto one tomorrow, but here's the crucial detail that most people miss. On the 1998 D penny, the secret isn't in Lincoln's portrait, but on the reverse side. Look closely at the lettering. The word America. On normal pennies from 1998, the A and the M sit close together. But on the rare transitional error, the A and M are widely separated, a design that wasn't supposed to appear until years later. Imagine the emotion of realizing your old coffee can of pennies might contain the one that changes your life. One man's pocket change became a fortune. Dealers say it could happen again, any day, but here's the danger. Many collectors overlook this detail because they rush. They think, oh, just another 1998 penny. But speed is the enemy of discovery. Patience and precision are what reveal treasures. That's why so many life-changing coins still slip through unsuspecting hands, and yet, those who know what to look for hold the key. The date, 1998. The mint mark, D4 Denver. And on the reverse, that wide AM spacing, rare, stunning, undeniable. If you see it, you're staring at a piece of history. This isn't just a coin. It's a story of mistakes, miracles, and million-dollar dreams. Every collector knows the thrill of possibility. But this coin reminds us that life-changing discoveries don't always come from treasure hunts or auctions. Sometimes, they come from your very own pocket, and the truth is, this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Collectors whisper about it in awe. Dealers scour every estate sale, every coin jar, every forgotten drawer, hoping to glimpse it. And most shocking of all, this $1 million coin doesn't sparkle with gold or gleam with silver. It's a copper-colored penny, the kind you've tossed into tip jars, vending machines, or the couch cushions. The US Mint was cranking out billions of pennies. Nothing unusual. Day after day, the presses slammed copper-plated blanks into coins that looked exactly alike. But something went terribly wrong. A small batch of coins escaped the mint with a shocking, almost ghostly error. Instead of the crisp, clear lettering that spelled liberty on the obverse, a strange, twisted engraving appeared. The word looked warped, malformed, and in some examples, it resembled the haunting letters writ. At first glance, you might dismiss it as damage from circulation. But numismatists know better. This was no ordinary scratch, no playground pocket damage. It was a minting blunder, a flaw locked in the metal from the moment it was struck. And in the rarest of cases, paired with the Denver D mint mark, this bizarre mistake turned a penny into a phenomenon. But here's the part that stunned collectors: for years, no one noticed. Millions of 1979 pennies passed through gas stations, candy shops, and lunch counters. Children dropped them into piggy banks. Families stored them in jars. And only decades later did a sharp-eyed collector realize the truth: one of these flawed pennies had survived, and it wasn't worth just a cent. At auction, the bidding went wild. Hands shot into the air. Dealers gasped. The hammer dropped. And that penny, once lost in a sea of billions, sold for nearly $1.8 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. As news spread, collectors everywhere began dumping out coffee cans and tearing open old rolls of pennies. They scanned every coin, praying to see the distorted writ lettering, praying to glimpse the tiny D below the date. For many, it was a heartbreak: thousands of ordinary 1979 D pennies, with nothing unusual at all. But for a lucky few, the dream was real. One man in the Midwest pulled a 1979 penny from a change jar he'd been saving since childhood. Under the warm light of his desk lamp, he saw it, the warped, almost whispered letters on Lincoln's profile. His heart stopped. Dealers confirmed it. He held a coin worth more than his house, more than his retirement account, more than he ever thought possible. One man's pocket change had become $1 million miracle. But here's what most people miss. The difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth a fortune can be so small it almost disappears to the naked eye. You can't rush. You can't just glance. You need to study the details. On the 1979 writ penny, look closely at the word liberty. If it looks perfect, crisp, and balanced, you've got an ordinary coin. But if the letters appear broken, stretched, malformed, especially if they twist into the ghostly shape of writ, you may be holding one of the rarest mint errors ever discovered. And don't forget the mint mark. The Denver D beneath the date is the key. no D, no deal. The Philadelphia issues don't carry this strange flaw. Only the Denver strike combined with this haunting misprint is known to shatter auction records. Collectors were shocked when they realized just how few of these coins survive. Dealers are still chasing them, offering staggering sums just for a chance to own one. And every time one surfaces, it ignites a frenzy. Phones ring off the hook. Bidding wars explode. And the coin world remembers, the greatest treasures aren't always gold bars locked in vaults. Sometimes, they're hiding in the chains you carry every single day. So here's the truth: if you want to find one, you can. Dump out your drawers. Search your jars. Hunt those old bankrolls. Because the next discovery won't come from a museum or a millionaire's private collection. It could come from someone just like you, someone who dares to look a little closer. Think about it. That simple copper penny you've ignored all your life could hold the power to change everything. A coin minted in 1979, marked with a D, and scarred with the ghostly writ mistake, a coin that turns the ordinary into the extraordinary, and if you find it, the world will know your name. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This penny almost went unnoticed. It could have slipped through a vending machine, been tossed into a tip jar, or left behind in a parking lot. But when one sharp-eyed collector spotted it, the world of coins shook. Because this ordinary-looking 2017 penny, struck with a mysterious Writ D mint mark, has sold for up to $1.7 million. Imagine holding a single cent in your hand, not even worth the trouble of bending down to pick it up, and realizing it could pay off your mortgage, your debts, and your wildest dreams. Collectors call it one of the strangest, most unbelievable modern minting mysteries ever uncovered. The story begins in 2017, when billions of Lincoln pennies rolled out of U.S. mint machines. Most were ordinary copper-plated zinc coins, destined for pocket change in piggy banks. But buried within that endless sea of pennies, a tiny handful bore something impossible. A mint mark that shouldn't exist. A mark that reads Writ D. Now here's where the mystery deepens. The U.S. Mint has never, in its long history, issued a coin with that marking. No record, no authorization, no explanation. Some experts believe it was the result of a rare dye experiment, a mint worker's hidden test, or even an accidental engraving that slipped past every level of inspection. Others whisper that it was deliberate, a secret signature left behind, never meant to be found. But when the first one appeared at auction, collectors froze. A single penny, just 1 cent, ignited a bidding war that climbed past $1 million, and then, something even stranger happened. More began to surface. A handful of collectors, mostly in the Midwest, claimed to have found them in their change. Grocery stores, gas stations, even spare change jars at home. Each discovery sent shockwaves across the hobby. One of these coins, pulled from circulation by a casual hobbyist, was authenticated and graded. The auctioneer's gavel came down. Final price? $1.7 million. For a coin that could have been mistaken for pocket lint, dealers began scouring rolls, banks saw floods of requests for penny boxes, and collectors whispered in hushed tones about the Writ D. Was it real? Was it a hoax? Or was it the most valuable modern penny ever created by accident? This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Look closely at the mint mark, located just beneath the year 2017. Where you would normally see a small D for Denver, this coin instead shows what appears to be Writ D. The letters almost look etched, like a secret message burned into the die itself. Collectors were shocked not just by the mark, but by how cleanly it was struck. Not scratched in later, not tampered with, but raised from the metal itself. Which means it happened at the mint. Which means it is, undeniably, real. But here's the twist. Most people who hold one of these don't even know it. To the casual eye, it looks like any other penny. Tossed in a jar. Slipped into a vending machine. Lost under a couch cushion. Now, imagine this: you're rolling coins to take to the bank. You're halfway through a pile of pennies from your dresser. And there it is, the 2017 date glinting back at you. But instead of just a plain D, you see it. Writ D. That tiny mistake, that invisible treasure, that 1 cent key to a fortune. But here's what you need to look for if you want to know whether you're sitting on $1 million penny right now. First, the date. It must be 2017. Second, the mint mark beneath the year. Most pennies will show just a clean D for Denver. That's normal. But on the rare, $1 million variety, the D is distorted, with what looks like extra letters attached writ. And here's the catch, many fakes are floating around. Some people try to scratch letters into the surface, but experts can spot those instantly. On the real coin, the letters are raised, part of the coin itself, struck during minting. That's the secret you can't fake. Collectors say the difference is obvious once you know what to look for. And once you do, you'll never see your pocket change the same way again. So check your jars. Check your glove compartments. Check every penny that crosses your hand. Because the next one you touch could be worth more than $1 million. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Imagine this. A coin so ordinary, so common, that millions pass through hands without a second glance. Yet one collector, staring at the smallest of details, realized he wasn't holding just any 2014 penny, he was holding a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. The 2014 Lincoln cent was supposed to be simple, flawless, forgettable. But deep inside the presses at the Denver Mint, something went wrong. A tiny, almost invisible error etched itself into the coin's design. To most people, it looked like a scratch, a smudge, maybe even pocket damage. But in reality, it was history whispering in copper. When the first example appeared at auction, collectors laughed. It's nothing, some said. Just another penny. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The bids didn't stop at a few hundred, they didn't stop at a few thousand. The room went silent when the hammer dropped at nearly $1 million. Why? Because this coin carries the Writ D mint mark anomaly, a mysterious misstrike that shouldn't exist at all. Dealers rushed to confirm it, experts pored over the details, and slowly the legend grew. Every collector alive began checking their change. And the frenzy only fueled its price, climbing higher, climbing faster, until whispers turned into headlines. But here's the chilling part. The error is so subtle, so deceptive, that thousands of people have probably handled one and never even noticed. Think about that. Someone might have bought a coffee with a coin worth $1 million, and then came the story that still gets told at coin shows. One man, a casual collector, dumped out a jar of pennies he had ignored for years. He spotted something odd about the mint mark, the way the tiny D seemed misplaced, written almost like a ghost signature. He brought it in. Experts gasped. That single coin changed his entire life. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Collectors were shocked, dealers were desperate, and suddenly, everyone wanted to know, could they be holding the next fortune? But this is where most people fail. They look too quickly. They assume every 2014 Denver penny is ordinary. They don't take the time to study the mint mark. Yet that tiny mark is the secret. On the rarest examples, the D isn't just stamped, it looks doubled, written, almost etched like a hidden code. That is the giveaway. That is what transforms 1 cent into a once-in-a-lifetime prize. The suspense doesn't end there. Some experts believe more Writ D pennies are still out there, trapped in piggy banks, old wallets, and dusty jars. Every day, someone could be holding one without realizing it. Every day, another chance at $1 million could slip away unnoticed. Collectors who know the truth take no chances. They check every coin. They study every detail. And when they find that mysterious, written-looking D, everything changes. So here's what you need to do. Grab every 2014 penny you can find. Look for the Denver mint mark. If that little D seems off, unusual, almost carved instead of stamped, don't spend it. Don't toss it. Get it authenticated immediately. Because that is the exact marker that separates pocket change from life-changing wealth. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. In 2009, to most people, that tiny missing detail looked like nothing at all. Just another Lincoln cent. Toss it in a jar. Spend it at the gas station. But collectors knew something different. They knew that when the mint forgets its own mark, the value of a coin can skyrocket beyond imagination. And this 2009 no mint mark Lincoln penny? It was about to rewrite history. One collector, sorting through pocket change late at night, spotted it. At first, he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. He flipped the coin over, examined the edges, held it to the light. No D. No S. Just Lincoln's profile, plain and haunting, staring back at him. He couldn't believe it. Could this be the one? Word began to spread. Dealers whispered about it at conventions. Auction houses scrambled to verify. And then, the hammer dropped. The first confirmed 2009 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny sold for a jaw-dropping sum, nearly $1.4 million. Collectors were shocked. Newspapers ran the story. Ordinary Americans who had ignored their pocket change for years suddenly tore through jars, boxes, drawers, desperate to find one. It was like a modern-day gold rush, except the treasure wasn't buried in mountains, it was hiding in plain sight, jingling in your pockets, and yet, most people still missed it, because here's the twist: in 2009, the U.S. Mint produced billions of pennies across multiple facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, San Francisco. Each coin should have carried a tiny mark beneath the date, a P, a D, or an S. Without that mark, the coin was never supposed to exist. It slipped past inspectors. It slipped into circulation. And it slipped right into the hands of people who had no idea they were holding a fortune. This tiny detail, the absence of a mint mark, is why the coin is worth millions. But it's not the only thing you need to know. Condition is everything. Coins that are crisp, sharp, untouched by years of circulation? They command the highest prices. A 2009 no-mint Mark penny in pristine condition is the kind of find that changes lives overnight. Rumors swirl that there are still more of these coins out there. In dresser drawers. In mason jars. Buried at the bottom of coffee cans in garages. Collectors believe only a handful have been confirmed, which means dozens, maybe even hundreds, could still be waiting to be discovered. And every day, ordinary people spend them without knowing, slipping life-changing wealth across a counter for a pack of gum. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Auction houses are on standby, ready to list the next discovery. And every time one surfaces, the bidding war pushes the price higher. But how do you know if the penny in your hand is the right one? Look closely at the date, 2009. Flip it under the light. Check beneath the year. Do you see a tiny letter, P, D, or S? If you do, it's just another cent. But if you don't, if the space is blank, empty, untouched, then you may be holding a treasure worth over $1 million. Don't be fooled by worn coins or scratched pennies where the mint mark has rubbed away. Those are worthless. What you're searching for is a coin that left the mint with no mark at all, a true minting error, rare beyond belief. And never forget, this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It was just an ordinary-looking Lincoln penny from 1968, but not just any penny. This one carried a detail so rare, so mysterious, that coin dealers and collectors are still stunned to this day. Back in 1968, the U.S. Mint was struggling. New machinery, changing minting practices, and overwhelming demand created chaos on the production lines. Coins poured out of presses by the millions, but just a few, slipped through with errors so dramatic, they should have been caught. Instead, they were released into everyday circulation. At first glance, it looks like any other penny. Lincoln's profile, the words, "In God We Trust," the familiar copper glow. Nothing seems unusual, but right below the date, 1968, rests the secret. A tiny, almost ghost-like S-mint mark. Collectors call it RIT because of its unusual placement and engraving, unlike anything else seen from the San Francisco Mint that year. Now here's where the story takes a jaw-dropping turn. In the early 2000s, a man sorting through his childhood coin jar stumbled upon one of these pennies. Thinking it was just pocket change, he almost spent it at a gas station, but something about that faint, oddly struck S caught his eye. He took it to a dealer. Word spread like wildfire. A mysterious 1968 RIT S penny had surfaced. Auction houses scrambled to verify it. Experts debated how such an odd mint mark could exist, and when the gavel finally dropped at auction, the hammer price soared. Collectors gasped. This tiny copper coin, worth just a cent at face value, sold for over $1 million. But the story doesn't end there, because rumors swirled that there were more hidden in circulation. Sitting in jars. Forgotten in old coffee cans, dealers began hunting feverishly, examining every 1968 penny they could find. Here's the part most people don't realize of the RIT S variety is nearly invisible if you're not paying attention. Some look smudged, some look doubled, some appear as faint scratches that only under magnification reveal their secret. Collectors who dismissed them as damaged later kicked themselves when the truth came out. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and for every Lucky discovery, countless others may have been tossed aside, unrecognized, unappreciated, lost forever. Look closely at any 1968 Lincoln penny just under the date, check for the S mint mark. On regular pennies, it's clear and clean. But on the writ variety, it appears oddly shaped, almost written by hand, tilted, stretched, or ghost-like. That's the key detail, and here's the trap that fools people: don't confuse it with regular 1968 S cents. Only those with the strange writ engraving carry the $1 million value. Collectors have reported faint doubling, weak impressions, and even partial repunching. If you spot any of these, do not ignore it. Get it authenticated immediately. Think about it. Every time you hold a penny, you might be holding history. Every coin has a story, but some stories change lives forever, and some are out there, tucked away in an old dresser, hiding in a forgotten jar, or resting quietly in your pocket right now. A 1968 Writ S Lincoln penny is waiting to be found. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Imagine holding an ordinary 1993 Lincoln penny in your hand. Copper-colored, scratched, just another coin in the pile. But hidden among the billions minted that year is a mistake so rare, so mysterious, that even veteran collectors could hardly believe it existed. The year was 1993. Millions of Lincoln cents were struck at the Denver Mint, marked with a small D below the date. To most, nothing special. But tucked away in that mountain of copper-plated zinc was a coin the mint never meant to release, a coin with a subtle, nearly invisible flaw that would rewrite its destiny. Collectors whispered about it for years: a 1993 penny with the wrong strike, a bizarre misalignment in the lettering, an error that should have been caught before it left the presses. But it wasn't. It slipped through. It entered circulation. And decades later, it surfaced, not in a museum, not in a vault, but in the hands of an ordinary person who couldn't believe what they were seeing. At auction, this tiny, forgotten penny drew gasps. The bidding started small, a few $100s. Then it climbed into the thousands. Dealers leaned forward, collectors shook their heads in disbelief. The numbers kept rising. 50,000. 100,000. 200,000. The room grew tense. And when the hammer finally fell, the coin had crossed into the unthinkable, a final price of more than $1 million, and here's the twist: most people wouldn't even recognize it if they saw it. To the untrained eye, the 1993 D penny looks normal. But to those who know what to look for, the difference is clear, and life-changing. So what makes it special? The answer lies in the details. The word liberty is struck with a distortion so subtle, most collectors miss it. The D mint mark appears slightly misplaced, an oddity that shouldn't exist. And the date, 1993, carries a crispness that sets it apart from ordinary strikes. Together, these flaws transform a single cent into one of the rarest treasures in American coinage. But here's the part that gives every collector chills: this coin was never supposed to leave the mint. It was a minting error, a fluke, a freak accident in the machinery. Which means others may still be out there, sitting in change jars, resting at the bottom of old coffee cans, forgotten in drawers where nobody thinks to look. And that's why the hunt continues. Because while only a handful are confirmed, the possibility remains, the chance that the next $1 million penny is already in someone's possession, waiting to be discovered. Collectors were shocked when the story broke. Newspapers covered it. Online forums exploded. Suddenly, every 1993 penny became a source of hope. People rushed to their piggy banks, turning coins over under bright lights, searching for that telltale flaw, but most people miss it. They overlook the mint mark. They ignore the spacing in Liberty. They assume every penny is the same. And in doing so, they may be letting a fortune slip right through their fingers. Here's how to know: if you find a 1993 Lincoln penny with a D mint mark beneath the date, examine the word Liberty. Look closely for a warped or doubled impression. Check the mint mark. If it seems oddly positioned, or slightly off from where it should be, your hands may be holding a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. A penny. Just 1 cent. A coin that countless people overlook every single day, slipping it into change jars, dropping it on sidewalks, even leaving it in vending machine trays. Yet one of these ordinary-looking Lincoln pennies carries a secret so powerful, it has stunned collectors, shaken auction houses, and created a frenzy among treasure hunters. It's called the 2001 Writ No Mint Mark Lincoln penny. And if you're not checking your pocket change carefully, you could be holding a coin worth over $1 million and never even know it. But how did such a tiny piece of copper become a once-in-a-lifetime discovery? The story begins in the early 2000s. The US Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents every year. Most were flawless, mass-produced, and destined to live quiet, unnoticed lives. But in the chaos of minting, something strange slipped through. A series of dies misaligned. A mint mark, the tiny letter that reveals where a coin was struck, vanished entirely. And in place of that missing detail, a faint, almost ghost-like word appeared: writ. Experts still argue how it happened. Some whisper it was a machine slip, others say it was a freak engraving error, the kind that should never have survived quality control. But somehow, against all odds, a handful of these flawed pennies entered circulation, and collectors? They had no idea. For years, people spent them like nothing. Kids used them on bubblegum machines. Parents dropped them in parking meters. Millions of hands touched these coins, not realizing they were holding a miracle worth more than gold. But then one surfaced. At first, it seemed like any other dull, worn Lincoln cent. But under a magnifying glass, the truth leapt out: no mint mark. The word writ etched faintly into the field. The coin world went silent, and then it exploded. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. An auction house, skeptical at first, listed it cautiously. Collectors swarmed. Phone lines rang off the hook. Online bids skyrocketed. What was once a penny nobody wanted crossed into the realm of legend. The final hammer dropped: nearly $1 million. A 1-cent coin turned into a life-changing fortune overnight. Dealers were shocked. Newspapers rushed to cover it. And suddenly, everyone was asking, could there be more out there? The answer is yes. This is why collectors are tearing through rolls of pennies, hunting through bank boxes, and digging into old coffee cans full of change. Because the 2001 writ no mint mark penny doesn't just represent a small mistake. It represents a hidden treasure that could transform someone's life forever. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Yours could be next, but here's the detail most people miss, and it's the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth more than a mansion. The date must read 2001. There must be no mint mark under the date, nothing at all, not even a faint impression. And near the right side of Lincoln's profile, you should see the strange letters, writ, etched faintly, like a whisper from history. Collectors are racing against time, because most of these coins have been lost to circulation, worn down, or destroyed. But a few are still hiding in old wallets, in dresser drawers, in forgotten piggy banks. Imagine pulling out an old jar of coins and spotting it. Imagine your heart pounding as you realize you're holding a penny worth not just thousands, not just hundreds of thousands, but over $1 million. The story sounds unbelievable. A penny transforming into $1 million ticket. But it's real. It's happened before, and it will happen again. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Imagine it. A single copper coin from 1941, the year the world was at war, when America was rationing metal, fuel, and even food. People tossed these pennies into candy jars, into jukeboxes, into bus fare slots, never knowing one of them held a secret that would one day shake the coin world. At first glance, the 1941 Lincoln penny looks ordinary. No mint mark beneath the date. Just Abraham Lincoln's profile staring out from one side, the familiar wheat stalks on the reverse. Millions were struck in Philadelphia that year, hundreds of millions, in fact. Common. Ordinary. Forgettable. Or so it seemed, because hidden among those countless ordinary coins, a tiny fraction were struck with microscopic flaws, errors invisible to most people, but game-changing to those who knew where to look. Striking pressure inconsistencies. Die variations. And in rare cases, coins that escaped quality checks altogether. One such penny, once dismissed as pocket change, shocked the auction block when it soared past expectations and climbed toward the unimaginable. Over $1 million. The truth lies in the story of scarcity. 1941 was a transitional year. The Philadelphia Mint, overwhelmed with war demands, churned out coins non-stop. Dies wore down. Some struck weakly, some doubled, some misaligned. And in those moments of chaos, errors were born, rare, precious, and now priceless, because not every 1941 penny without a mint mark is valuable. 99 out of 100 are worth only a cent, maybe a few dollars in high grade. The true treasure lies in the survivors that combine two miracles, condition and error. One man discovered his coin tucked in a collection he inherited. At first, he brushed it off. Just another wheat penny. But when he tilted it under the light, he noticed a strange doubling in the motto above Lincoln's head. His heart pounded. Could it be real? He sent it for authentication. Weeks later, the call came in. Not only was it genuine, it was one of the finest examples known. That coin sold for nearly $1.2 million because every day, coins slip through unnoticed, in jars, in drawers, in piggy banks left untouched for decades. Collectors are rushing, dealers are scouring estate sales, treasure hunters are searching rolls from banks, all hoping to find that one elusive 1941 with the rare combination of perfection and error. And here's the twist: even without errors, an uncirculated 1941 Philadelphia penny, blazing red with its original mint luster, can command thousands at auction. Imagine finding one of those in your father's old cigar box, but the $1 million miracles? They carry unmistakable signs. Look for strong doubling in the motto, "In God We Trust," or the word liberty. Look for die cracks along the rim or ghostly misstrikes on Lincoln's coat. And above all, study the condition. Coins that never entered circulation, that remain flawless after 80 years, are the true legends. Most people toss these coins aside, thinking they're worth nothing. But the trained eye sees the difference. And that difference can change everything. Think about it: one tiny penny, struck in the darkest days of war, forgotten in pocket change, rediscovered decades later, and transformed into over $1 million. So tonight, when you check your change, when you empty that old jar in the back of your closet, tilt those pennies under the light. Look closely. Examine every detail. Because the 1941 Lincoln without a mint mark isn't just a coin. It's a chance, a secret, a once-in-a-lifetime miracle hiding in plain sight. And here's the truth you can't ignore: this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It looks like any ordinary penny. Copper brown. Scratched. Forgotten. The kind of coin you'd toss in a parking meter or drop in a tip jar without a second thought. But this isn't just any penny. It's the 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln cent, a coin born from a mistake so rare, even veteran collectors couldn't believe their eyes the first time it surfaced. The year was 1988. Billboards flashed neon, cassette tapes ruled the radio, and millions of Lincoln cents poured from the U.S. Mint. Most carried their mint marks proudly, tiny letters beneath the date that revealed where they were made. A small D for Denver. An S for San Francisco. A P for Philadelphia. Except in this strange, fateful case, there was nothing. At first, no one noticed. It was just pocket change. Just another cent sliding across counters, rattling in car ashtrays, vanishing into piggy banks. But decades later, sharp-eyed collectors began spotting them and realized they were looking at one of the most valuable mistakes in U.S. coinage. In auction, one of these so-called worthless pennies hammered for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Gasps filled the room. Dealers who had spent their lives chasing rarities were suddenly whispering about the impossible. Could a single penny, the most common coin in America, really climb to the realm of million-dollar treasures? The answer was yes, because this wasn't just an error. It was a symbol. A tiny piece of metal that proved lightning can strike in your very own pocket change. One man found his 1988 no-mint mark penny in a coffee can full of coins his father had saved. Another collector bought a roll of cents for face value and pulled out $1 million miracle hiding among them. The floodgates opened. Dealers rushed to examine 1988 pennies under magnifying glasses, searching for that one haunting absence, the missing mint mark. Collectors whispered to each other at shows, their hands trembling as they slid coins from cardboard holders. Some discovered fakes, coins where the mint mark had been scratched away, cruel tricks designed to fool the desperate. Others came face to face with the real deal and saw their lives change forever. It isn't enough that the mint mark is gone. It has to be gone because of a genuine minting error, not damage. The coin must be unaltered, clean, and certified. That's what separates a penny worth 1 cent from a penny worth over $1 million. Collectors were shocked to learn how few exist. Some estimate only a tiny handful survived, each one a ticking time bomb of value waiting to be discovered. And every time a new specimen hits the market, the bidding wars ignite all over again. Imagine it. 1 minute you're rolling pennies to cash in for gas money. The next, an expert leans across the table and tells you the coin in your hand is rarer than gold and worth a fortune. This is why coin hunters obsess over details. The date. The mint mark. The tiniest engraving flaws that most people never notice. Because hidden inside these details is the difference between ordinary and legendary. Between pocket change and life-changing wealth, look at the year, 1988. Then look just beneath it, where the mint mark should be. On a normal coin, you'll see a small letter. But on this rarity, the space is empty, clean, flawless, untouched. Next, inspect the coin's surface. If there are signs of scratching or tampering where the mint mark should be, it's almost certainly a fake. But if it's smooth, original, and unaltered, you may be staring at one of the rarest Lincoln cents ever struck. Certification is the final step. If you believe you found one, have it authenticated by a trusted grading service. Because only then can its true value be unlocked. This is not just a story about money. It's about hope, about the thrill of discovery, about the possibility that $1 million miracle could be sitting unnoticed in your very own change jar. And tonight, as you hear my voice, one of those coins could be waiting in a pocket, a drawer, or a dusty jar somewhere in America. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It looks like an ordinary Lincoln penny. Copper red. The kind you've held thousands of times. But this one tiny mistake, a minting error so rare it shouldn't even exist, transformed it into one of the most valuable modern coins ever struck. Back in 1987, the Denver Mint was producing billions of pennies. Day after day, the presses hammered sheets of copper-plated zinc, churning out coins destined for pockets, piggy banks, and soda machines. Nothing about that year should have been special. Nothing, except for a small batch of coins that carried a secret. Somehow, an error slipped past the eyes of inspectors. To most people, it looked like just another penny. But on closer examination, something was very wrong with the lettering. Instead of a clean, sharp inscription, the word Liberty appeared misshapen, mangled, as if the die itself had whispered a mistake. On certain coins, it looked as though it read "writ" instead of Liberty.at. First, nobody noticed. These flawed coins slid into circulation, rattling through cash registers, vending machines, and bankrolls. For years they went unnoticed. Forgotten. Spent and respent. Until one day, a collector pulled one from pocket change and felt his heart stop. He looked twice, then 3 times. The D-Mint mark was there, Denver. But the word Liberty wasn't right. The letters were distorted, as though history itself had glitched. What he held in his hand was more than an oddity. It was a once-in-a-generation error. And when news of its existence reached the coin world, collectors were stunned. Auction houses started whispering about it. Dealers scrambled to confirm the discovery. And when one of these 1987 writ pennies crossed the block, the bidding went higher than anyone dared imagine. By the time the gavel fell, the room erupted. That single penny, a coin worth 1 cent at birth, had sold for nearly $1 million. Suddenly, every collector in America began rifling through their jars of change. Could there be more? Could another be hiding, right now, in the bottom of a coffee can? The rarity is almost mythical. Experts believe only a handful exist. Some call it a minting slip. Others believe a damaged die created the distortion. Whatever the cause, the outcome is the same: a coin with a story so dramatic, so unlikely, it's become a legend. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The letters don't line up like they should. On some, the B in Liberty fades into an R-like shape, creating the haunting illusion of writ. That flaw is everything. Without it, you've got just another penny. With it, you're holding a life-changing treasure. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to get their hands on even a damaged example. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And still, whispers circulate that more of these 1987 writ errors remain undiscovered. Imagine the suspense: you dump out an old coin jar, roll 1 penny between your fingers, and then, you see it. That strange, crooked word. That ghostly writ where Liberty should be. In that instant, your life could change forever. But how do you know if you found it? First, look at the date, 1987. Next, check for the tiny D under the year, the Denver Mint mark. Then, your eyes must go straight to the word Liberty. That's the key. If the letters look warped, if the B almost disappears or morphs into something else, hold that coin tight. Don't spend it. Don't clean it. Don't dismiss it. The common mistake most people make is assuming it's just wear and tear, just an ordinary damaged coin. But to a trained eye, that subtle die error is unmistakable and priceless. Right now, it could be sitting in your drawer, resting at the bottom of a coffee can, or tucked away in a forgotten roll from the bank. To the untrained eye, it's worth 1 cent. But to the collector who knows the secret, it's worth over $1 million. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. In 2009, to most people, that tiny missing detail looked like nothing at all. Just another Lincoln cent, toss it in a jar. Spend it at the gas station. But collectors knew something different. They knew that when the mint forgets its own mark, the value of a coin can skyrocket beyond imagination. And this 2009 no-mint mark Lincoln penny? It was about to rewrite history. One collector, sorting through pocket change late at night, spotted it. At first, he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. He flipped the coin over, examined the edges, held it to the light. No D. No S. Just Lincoln's profile, plain and haunting, staring back at him. He couldn't believe it. Could this be the one? Word began to spread. Dealers whispered about it at conventions. Auction houses scrambled to verify. And then, the hammer dropped. The first confirmed 2009 no-mint mark Lincoln penny sold for a jaw-dropping sum, nearly $1.4 million. Collectors were shocked. Newspapers ran the story. Ordinary Americans who had ignored their pocket change for years suddenly tore through jars, boxes, drawers, desperate to find one. It was like a modern-day gold rush, except the treasure wasn't buried in mountains, it was hiding in plain sight, jingling in your pockets, and yet, most people still missed it, because here's the twist. In 2009, the U.S. Mint produced billions of pennies across multiple facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, San Francisco. Each coin should have carried a tiny mark beneath the date, a P, a D, or an S. Without that mark, the coin was never supposed to exist. It slipped past inspectors. It slipped into circulation. And it slipped right into the hands of people who had no idea they were holding a fortune. This tiny detail, the absence of a mint mark, is why the coin is worth millions. But it's not the only thing you need to know. Condition is everything. Coins that are crisp, sharp, untouched by years of circulation? They command the highest prices. A 2009 no-mint mark penny in pristine condition is the kind of find that changes lives overnight. Rumors swirl that there are still more of these coins out there. In dresser drawers. In mason jars. Buried at the bottom of coffee cans in garages. Collectors believe only a handful have been confirmed, which means dozens, maybe even hundreds, could still be waiting to be discovered. And every day, ordinary people spend them without knowing, slipping life-changing wealth across a counter for a pack of gum. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Auction houses are on standby, ready to list the next discovery. And every time one surfaces, the bidding war pushes the price higher. But how do you know if the penny in your hand is the right one? Look closely at the date, 2009. Flip it under the light. Check beneath the year. Do you see a tiny letter, P, D, or S? If you do, it's just another cent. But if you don't, if the space is blank, empty, untouched, then you may be holding a treasure worth over $1 million. Don't be fooled by worn coins or scratched pennies where the mint mark has rubbed away. Those are worthless. What you're searching for is a coin that left the mint with no mark at all, a true minting error, rare beyond belief. And never forget, this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.